I want to welcome everybody to Introduction to Selling High Performance Homes 101. And before we get into our course, just a real quick word from our sponsors. Take a look at the Rheem Prestige. It's an energy efficient, quiet, and all-electric heat pump water heater that can also be ducted as well in cold weather climates and high-performance homes. And then our main sponsor, Mitsubishi Electric. Mitsubishi provides all your heating, cooling, and filtration needs all in one. Today's low-load homes require right-size equipment, and the most efficient systems, especially gas-fired, cannot meet it anymore. Mitsubishi has low-load, high-efficient heat pumps that dehumidify and cool in the summer, and then work in reverse to heat in the winter. Going ductless reduces costs and makes it easier to meet ENERGY STAR version 3 and LEED for Home certification standards. Ductless mini splits can now be hidden in many different ways to meet your client's needs, and ducted systems can also be used as well. The ducted systems are hidden behind the walls to ensure a beautiful space and can be retrofitted in to replace a furnace in existing or single-family or multi-family projects as a plug-and-play, just without any other extra add-ons. Hyperheat ensures efficient delivery down to -13 degrees. And backup strip heaters kick in during the rare but coldest of cold days. Each room of a house can be customized to the comfort of your client while still being all electric and energy efficient for those with different needs. Multifamily and commercial centralized variable refrigerant or VRF systems work great on large projects serving whole buildings. Interestingly, these systems can cool and heat simultaneously around each building or unit, depending on the needs of that specific area during that specific time of the day. Check out Mitsubishi Comfort today for all your HVAC needs. All right, now this particular course is approved for 3 hours in continuing education units, AIBD, BPI, and is pending the Realtor CEUS as well in the state of Michigan. And also, it is AIA HSW, which may make it applicable to your state-based design or contractor license. Real quick announcement, we're releasing our first ever GreenHome Institute Associate Realtor certificate. And this course is actually one of the first ways to get that. This is going to be the first course that has to be attended live or on demand to obtain the Associate Realtor certificate. And there's going to be more information coming soon, but if you're realtors or you know any realtors, let them know about this. It is going to be the GreenHome Realtor Certificate. Today I'll be your moderator. My name is Brett Little. I'm the Executive Director at the nonprofit, the GreenHome Institute. And today's course is really about understanding, valuing, and selling high-performance homes. What are the barriers? What are the opportunities? And how do we get it done? So I'm real excited to introduce our speaker today, Paul Yankee, President and CEO of Green Building Consulting. He manages the day-to-day operations of Green Building Consulting, an independent third-party high-performance building consulting, verification, and education firm with over 400 certified projects and tens of thousands of living units performance tested across 13 states. Prior to taking on this role, Paul's 13-year career as a licensed financial planner and small business consultant has led to his interest in green building with an eye towards return on investment and how it can drive the construction industry towards best practices. He holds or has held leadership roles within GBCI Ohio Chapter as a founding member, GBCI Southwest Ohio Regional Chapter Advocacy Chairperson, the Residential Green Buildings Member Circle Chairperson, Board of Directors member, and 2015's Green Person of the Year. Current professional designations include Lead AP Homes, Lead Green Rater, Lead for Homes Provider QAD, National Green Building Standard Verifier, a licensed real estate agent in the state of Ohio, and has the NARS Green Realtor credential, and then has sat on the city, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, but a city in Ohio as the planning commissioner. So with that, Paul, welcome, and take it away.
Thanks, Brett. So I first want to say thanks for having me and having this conversation as I get to have, and I'm lucky enough to have with Cincinnati folks quite often now. We're going to be able to have this conversation now with a great audience, and hopefully some outcomes in this world as well. I want to first, I think I'm going to switch over to my screen, and I have that. And I guess while I'm doing that, Brett, let me ask you on breaks. Is it okay doing maybe 2 breaks? Maybe at 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock for a few minutes?
Yeah, let's try to plan on that. That's a good idea.
Okay, that'd be great. I would like to know when the breaks are, so I don't keep droning on. And then Brett's going to help us with any opportunity, I guess, if there's potential for questions. I'm very open to having those during the conversation if you're able to see them, Brett. And then definitely there'll be time at the end for questions for sure. Okay. Can you see my screen there?
Yep.
All right.
Actually, I take that back. We do not see your screen.
We do not. Okay. Fantastic. All right. So again, yes, what we're doing, you'll notice a keyword of one-on-one because we are introing the selling of high-performance homes. And this is a 101 course that does have a 201 component that we're going to be releasing early next year. But today we're going to be, again, kind of exploring how this helps the real estate business across the board. Some of our individuals that are probably on today I'm sure I have a lot of agents, but I probably also have some appraisers, maybe home performance contractors, others, what we tend to see in our classes. It affects everybody along the line, and hopefully it's data that all of you can use in your day-to-day. Thanks Brett, by the way, for reading kind of my credentials and whatnot. I hate putting this up here, but I know that it's necessary for a big reason. We have to kind of put up our credentials, our certifications, and all the work we do in the green world because, as a lot of you probably know, when you go to talk about this stuff, there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of information that is just not really easy for people to figure out whether or not it's correct or not. And so credentials matter. So he read a few of the ones that I go through and I think that are important, but I think going through the remainder of these, it just means that people might think we know what we're talking about, and that's important to go through. None of these I'm going to read, but know that we have to prove ourselves as well. As Brett mentioned, by the way, I also want to say who I'm representing. So I am representing, of course, my company, Green Building Consulting, who works with a lot of these programs and does consulting on these. But I'm also representing U.S. Green Building Council, national, and in Ohio, where we've served. And in Ohio, we actually have this premise of greening the MLS as being one of our core goals. Cincinnati is one of our examples that we got through the process. Took longer than it probably should have, but we got there. Although it's always a beginning, there's more to do. But this is hopefully to help a lot of other areas throughout Ohio and other states as well do this. We'll talk about that in a little bit. All right, so the agenda. So today I'm going to talk about what does green mean. We have to start with definitions. Very, very important. Why should we care about it? I like to then kind of go into why are we even seeing high performance homes. In our case, I'll kind of tell you about Cincinnati, but it'll should resonate with a lot of other areas. Bigger items is the finance part of it. Why do we care about the value side of it? And really, that's what a lot of this, the outcome of all of this process is to gain additional value for these measures that are going in these homes. If we do not, people will not be motivated to put them in. If you can gain the value, we're going to see more and more of it. You know, that's what we tend to see. What a GreenHome initiative. How did we get here? This is Cincinnati's kind of outcome, but also the roadmap for others. What's in it for everybody involved? All the stakeholders. We'll talk about that. Since the MLS, what does it physically look like? We might actually, Brett's going to share us maybe also what he has up in Michigan as another example. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then again, being the finance guy, I can't help but I beat on them and I praise them The appraiser. Okay, the appraiser is a key, along with the underwriter on the other side of he or she, is a key stakeholder that holds the keys, if you will, to this process. And if the data gets to the appraiser, a lot of things get moving, and if it doesn't, it does not. And then I always like you to know what's coming. This is an ongoing process, and so you need to know the next things that are coming up, and I think that'll be your decisions on where you want to play a part in this role. All right, so one of the first things that I do in this process is I actually ask this question. I usually do it, although I just might have given you away with one of them. I usually ask my students to close your eyes. It's a visualization process. It's very important. So close your eyes, and we all have a vision of what a green home can be. I want you to lock that in your head. All right, get it in there nice and tight in the actual house. I want you to tell me if it might look like this. Maybe a house in the Shire. Maybe this. Will I have to have every inch of the roof covered in solar panels? Maybe this. Maybe it's not allowed to have too many windows. Maybe recycle content is a big deal for you. Maybe fully recycled. Or, as I like to say, we might have an even crazier idea inside our head. And I don't know what this is, but it could be what the vision is of green that you have in there. My company even has as our tagline, what does green mean to you? Because this is important, especially for agents in the field that have to sell, right, the value of these features and other things. That vision that your client has can be all over the board. And when we're in the process of consulting with a client, we need to ask open-ended questions. We need to be able to get that information out. What is their vision of a green home? Don't assume. You need to find out. Maybe show them some pictures. In Cincinnati, our greenhouses look more like these examples. And what I like to say, what I like to say is that, again, there's not one type of greenhouse. There's all types. Historic is going to be brought into play. Don't let them tell you it can't be. Very historic. Groundbreaking, contemporary. This will actually be Cincinnati's first passive house. Not being big. Suburban. Quite frankly, it's just a tip. So what I try to do is give you ideas, okay? As I'm going through a lot of pictures of Cincinnati green homes of different versions, I want to make sure that the ideas that you have in your head to start with are dispelled as much as possible. And know that the vision that you have, and especially not only you, but also your clients, have of their home, whether the one they want to buy or the home they're wanting to sell, is represented. Don't forget tiny. Don't forget large or very large. Talk about historic. And don't forget multifamily, whether it's condos or apartments. And what I want to make sure that we really don't forget is rehab. The existing home market, right, represents the market for us. Yes, new construction's out there, but it's always going to be less than 10% of any of the transactions we have in a given year. So when we see rehabs, whether they're transformational rehabs like this one, historic, or just suburban, prettied up houses. By the way, this is mine. It's actually the house that we're in currently. You're in my phase 4 of my renovation. my seeking lead platinum house should be done the next month or so. Of course, the office is always the last place that it gets done, but it can be done anywhere. Again, it can be done anyway. As long as we keep that fresh in our minds, our clients won't hear a different story. And so one of the things I bring up back to my house when we redid this, started the process about 3.5 years ago, and actually I'm going to take a break a second to tell you guys, please use your own houses and your own experiences in your conversations with your clients. I cannot stress that enough. Well, you'll hear me reference my house. In my professional career, we've dealt with, again, hundreds of full certification and tens of thousands of houses. And guess what? All of that pales in comparison to the experience I have with my own house. It's personal, right? And when you have your clients and they're in the process of trying to tell you, the agent, everything in your house is personal to them too. So make sure you start with that, because conversations about what you did in your house, they will relate to, hopefully like you will as well here. So when I started this house out in the suburbs and started doing crazy things to it, renovation, my neighbors were obviously eager to figure out what all I was doing and why it was taking so long. And I came about 2 months into the process one time out to the house. A neighbor came over, retired engineer, super excited to meet me finally. Hey, I want to tell you that I think what you're doing to the house is amazing. I've been through it a couple times, to my surprise, by the way. Did not know that. But Tom had walked through the house a few times, and especially during the installation phase, was just blown away, right? All the things that were going in. They don't tend to see gut rehabs in this area as much as that, as more just aesthetic changes. And so he said, man, you inspired me. I've been here for 30 years, and I called the guys to do some extra insulation into the attic. And I think I'm on my way to do similar things. And my question to everybody is that green? Is that high performance? We're going to talk about that term in a minute. And the answer is absolutely. Now, I did recommend that in his R0 walls, right, 1950s modern houses, yeah, we didn't have a lot of insulation. They're block walls. And so kind of like wearing a wool hat naked out in the snow. But it's a start, right? And so that fact he blew R60 into his attic and he's done nothing else, I'm okay with that. And he needs to make sure he gets value back out of that. So don't forget that example when your client comes to you. So what is a green home? Would you like definitions? And I like starting with Wikipedia if I can, because it's open source. Anybody can go in there and change this, so it usually ends up in a pretty reasonable space. It's not bad. Green home is a type of house that's built or remodeled. Good, they covered that. In order to conserve energy or water. I like that. Improve indoor air quality. Huge, by the way. We'll talk more about that. Use sustainable, recycle, or used materials, and produce less waste. Not a bad definition. Covers a lot of things. I like to give a couple other ones, and I like to point out specific words. One that's healthy and comfortable. You're going to notice, again, for those of us that are agents and have clients that we're dealing with on a direct basis, or if you're a product rep or you're a builder, you're dealing with clients, words matter. Key words, healthy. Who wants an unhealthy house? Who wants an uncomfortable house? Never going to happen. If you talk about comfort and health, it's a lock that someone's going to pay attention to the next things that come out of their mouth. Yes, of course it makes sense for it to be economical to operate. Everyone's going to get that. That's the easy one. But I want to focus on things like healthy and comfortable. Conserves resources, minimizes the generation of toxic materials. Again, say the word toxic to a new young family, and that's obviously a place they want to avoid. Okay? Considers historic preservation. Again, absolutely works together. Do not let anybody tell you historic and green or high performance can't work together. They're absolutely symbiotic. Active public infrastructure, fair enough. And as well as the entire life cycle of the building and its components. Durability, how long the building's going to last, quite frankly, is a huge component of this, often lost. Again, if I'm going to be caring about words, I'm going to care about the names of green buildings. Sustainable. absolutely fine. People have a vision of what that means. It's important. Energy efficient makes sense. Resource efficient, create water and others. Environmentally responsible. Everybody wants to feel responsible, but keep in mind that you may charge, right, certain conversations a certain direction with some of these words. So I tend to like, a lot of times, high performance. Again, who wants a low performance house? Nobody, right? Super easy to use that, because that's what this is. The green and sustainable world, in most cases, you're looking for parts of the house that are going to be more efficient, but that are actually operate the way that you were hoping you would. High performance. Which means, right, so if we can use words, so can individuals who are probably not the most up and up on trying to be honest on what's happening in the building. So watch out for greenwashing. That's a term describing the deceptive use of green PR, right? There was an old there was an old advertisement. Late night TV, that's the first clue, by the way. Late night TV for windows. These windows, this is just a couple years ago, these windows will guarantee, if you install these windows, will drop your energy bill 80%. How's that possible? Right? Too good to be true, you should know that. Well, it's not. There's no window in the world that can drop your energy bill 80% because the windows tend to make up somewhere between 10 and maybe 20% at the most of your entire wall structure of your house. Not going to happen, right? But they sold a lot of windows until the FCC shut them down, and now the company's out of business. That's greenwashing, okay? I love my builders. My builders are a big chunk of my clients. But every one of my builders says they build the greenest and most energy efficient house. Every one. Can't all be right. Okay, so where is it, right? So dispelling the rumors, getting the data, figuring out what exactly we're getting out of the house. You'll hear me say this word, transparency. That's what I want. All right. So why should we care? You've heard a couple keywords already, but the first thing is everyone's talking about it. If you're an agent or any consumer-facing, right, professional, do you want to be surprised by a conversation? So if your client comes to you asking about, hey, I see this house that's geothermal, am I paying the right price for that house because it has this really fancy thing? And oh, by the way, what is geothermal? Nobody wants to be the person that says, I don't know. Hopefully, if you say, I don't know, you say, I'll get back to you. And let alone making something up, which I've heard. You're not talking about it. So we're talking about it. So you need to. Also, this is not a small market. Don't let anybody tell you that this is some niche market of a couple high-performance homes of crazy architects that built their house. It's not true. Especially when I'm telling you it involves every piece of the house. You'll hear me say the words, the building is a system, okay? All the parts of the house contribute to this. It's important. Just in the scoring of a total house in the green world, the HERS index alone, and that number is over a year old, is over 2 million. I believe it's in the 2.3 million range at this point. That means houses that actually have an energy score to them, or 2.3 million in the U.S., not small. Energy Star, I think, is getting close to 2 million right now. It means Energy Star rated house, not the dishwasher by itself. LEED, which is a lot of times thought of as one of the kind of, so definitely one of the originals, but more the Cadillac all green. 20,000 houses at that time. Is what went out. The home energy score, again, we're about 75,000. I believe that's closer to like 100,000 now, maybe, Brett. I think we were talking about that a little bit earlier. And I will tell you then locally, so those are national numbers, and sometimes us in the Midwest, we like to discount national numbers because we're scared of, there's no way Cincinnati is there or other cities, right? Not true. Cincinnati alone, I know we have thousands and thousands of homes. I believe we're getting close to the 10,000 mark of homes that might have 20 stores, let alone, right, the housing stock that has something done to the house. As far as resales. So, yes, Do you see these, especially full certifications and the marketing and everything else, do you see this a lot more on new construction? I'm sure you do. And that's important. But don't forget all the new construction that happens every year. Tomorrow it's a reset, right? So those are all getting there. And just to make you understand kind of where this is at, 17 of the top 20 home builders in the U.S. right now have 100% of their homes rated for some green or high performance program. 17 of the top 20. I love looking at those kind of guys and seeing what they're doing. Because guess what? If it doesn't make sense monetarily, they're not doing it. So don't think that they're doing it out of the goodness out of their heart. Most of those are public companies. They have shareholders to answer to. So it's a really big deal that that's happening. And they do become resales instantly. We talked about this before. It's not small. All right, so this is a good one. I like this because it kind of shows they're trying, right? We get these studies and try to figure out where this is going, how big this will be. And they're trying to keep up. In 2015, I think is when this was, they projected that by 2018, would be over 20%. So they, actually that's not true, by 2016 they thought it would be 29 to 38% of the market of green housing projects. Well, to give you an idea, last year 37% of all homes were HERS rated. That's just HERS rated. It doesn't count any of the other ones we just talked about, right? Now a lot of those, the HERS is the basis. It's growing faster than people expected. And if you want to know details, I really, really recommend this. I get to do it yourself here in a minute. You're going to hear different studies because these are the bullets in your gun when you're having these conversations. This is the great starting point for those of you that have ever done some of the National Association of Realtors research department studies. They have phenomenal ones. You can get all kinds of great stuff. They've had a sustainability report for years, and every year has amazing nuggets. So a lot of these I'm going to be quoting to you come out of here and other areas as well. This one you guys can go out and buy right away. Strongly recommend it. Here's a few of my favorites out of here. And again, I'm going to give you a lot of data, but these are ones that, again, I feel like, I've been in sales or client-facing conversations from all my career, and I believe this matters when you're having that conversation. It helps people realize you're not going to be greenwashing, right? Shares home buyers rated features. This is a big one. National Association of Realtors does this every year. They set up what are the most popular features. Okay, green features is one of their sections, and this is something that always amazes me. The Energy Star rating for the whole home ranks as 91 or 88%, either very high or high as far. Essential and very essential features. And it always amazes me that Energy Star is still known as the most recognized brand name in the home purchase arena. It's amazing to me. They might not know what Energy Star does, right, or what exactly it means. They know it's good. Just like if your TV has an Energy Star sticker on it, you'd rather have the one that does than doesn't, right? Water efficient features, big deal. Triple pane glass keeps coming in cheaper and cheaper, and so that value keeps getting better and better. Tankless water heaters. I remember people thought people were crazy. I'm on my second one in my two houses now. Last one lasted 18 years. So low E insulating glass, solar hot water heating. Yeah, so these are some of the bigger ones that we see. I like to bring up a couple key words that come out of these studies, because again, we've talked about that a few times. Cost savings, everyone knows that already, right? But I want to make sure that we don't just keep focusing on that, because if you do, you'll be stuck in that box. If it does not have cost savings within the range of what somebody is envisioning they're going to stay in that house. So let's say you say it has a 10-year return on investment, you're like, I'll be out of here in 5. Then it just got cut off. But what if it has a 10-year return on investment, but it's something that gives them control? Smart features of houses is a big deal. You're seeing that written on pretty crazy listings. constantly, over and over and over again in listings right now, to help sell the house as a techie house and have more control. Most HVAC contractors will tell you they do not get callbacks because they have too high of an energy bill, right? Hey, you built this house, it's great. You put in a new system, right? That's everything else. It's all great. I'm uncomfortable in that one room. That is the callback they get. They don't get callbacks because the bill seems too high. At least not very often. It's comfort. Comfort is a big deal. If you can sell the fact that the house is more comfortable and has more control, you'll do well. We are seeing listings add these items, right, with and without the MLS features. We'll talk a little more about that, but this is a big deal. 71% is a survey they did in your realtor study, sustainability report. 71% of all respondents said that energy efficiency promotion in listings was very or somewhat valuable. I've had that conversation before where people say, I can put it in there, nobody's going to care, right? Or, this is my favorite, nobody asks me about those things. Well, it depends on how we, as the professionals, present those things. Whether, first of all, they're even available, whether we talk about them, right? When talked about, 100 times out of 100, someone's happy about them, and in most cases, they become actually a critical feature. They start writing. Yeah.
Real quick, and maybe this actually is in context to the first one on here, actually, but the question that came through, and I know it's a very in-depth, loaded question, but maybe you can kind of just try to just tackle it a little bit, so because this term will keep coming up. The best that you can. I don't know how I would do it, but it's worth discussing. So how would you quantify comfort, or when you say that term?
I love that question. Well, I think we all quantify, and clients quantify discomfort. Okay, so what will usually happen is, goes back to experiences. A client will remember the time they were uncomfortable in a house. And so one great example I think we all can probably relate to, if you've ever been in any house older than a few years, is probably windows, right? You knew when windows were leaky, or they were single pane and bad windows. You sit next to that and you are uncomfortable in that space. What will happen is that ends up defining comfort for you. So if knowing that's a pretty common one, and you start talking about new windows, I think most agents will tell you new windows sells, right? And it's funny, it's not about the energy bill, because the energy bill, when you change from old windows to new windows, unless your windows were almost non-existent in the first place, it doesn't move your energy bill that terribly much, right? It definitely can move it, but a lot of times you may be looking at very single-digit changes, so not huge difference. But does it do a lot for comfort? Yes. And so I think it's probably one of the more visual ones. But the rest of it, it tends to be something, again, that you start talking more about distribution. If you ever walk into a building, and you can do this, and you almost have to paint the picture and they'll find it in their memory banks. You ever walk into a building, and no matter where you went in the building, you felt the same comfort level. It felt good to breathe in. It felt the same temperature. You just felt like you could sit in that building all day long. Yeah, my office is like that. Oh, great. How about your house? Well, no. If I walk upstairs, it's really warm. If I go downstairs, it's really cold. And over in the corner, right? And there's always this little smell that we've got in this one place I can't figure out. So it's more about knowing what the discomfort is. It's harder to sell what comfortable was, and so you've got to kind of paint a picture. But that's kind of where it comes from. We end up realizing a little bit later, when you get deeper into this type of stuff, this is where we get, again, way smarter, and I have way smarter people that work for me for sure that have proven this to me, but comfort really isn't always just about temperature. It's a lot of times much more about humidity, right, and also indoor air quality. Those things will play even a bigger factor. Good question. So importance of home features, they like to rank things. Keep in mind these are national studies, so they do tend to stream certain directions, but look at number one, right? Comfortable living space. I love that. Now again, some people may define comfortable. We have an example here in Over the Rhine in Cincinnati where finally, I've been telling developers this for a while, when you leave a brick wall uninsulated, it looks really, really cool, but it's really uncomfortable long term. Not just because it's cold, right, in the winter, because it's just radiating cold through, but also because if you put any furniture up next to it, you might be in a situation where, again, your arm, anything else kind of rubs up against a rough kind of wall, and we've actually had comments about that kind of stuff, that, oh, I thought I'd like it, but, you know, it's not something that I really want. We actually do kind of surveys sometimes coming out of projects. And so comfort can be defined by you're thinking one thing and it ends up going another, a comfortable living space. Proximity to frequently visited places, sure, nothing new than that. Windows and doors, home utility bills. Okay, yeah, makes sense. Nobody wants a high bill. But it's some of those other areas, you see smart in there, right? Smart connected home, landscaping for water conservation. We don't see as much in our, right, neck of the woods, probably out west and whatnot. And then renewable energy are good. All right, so this the finance guy, and you'll hear me say this. I'm a ex-banker. I like to say I'm a recovering banker. This is a big deal for us. All right, this is probably the thing I get asked the most about from my builders that are choosing or thinking about maybe whether or not to add something. My homeowners that are wanting to do this. What will buyers pay for? Agents, this is our job, right, to figure this out. Well, guess what? You know, they give us this information. So this one comes from McGraw-Hill through National Association of Realtors. There's a ton of these studies. I'm going to quote you a few more and kind of wrap it around here in a second. But this is probably one of my most simplified ones, and I think it's the one you probably should memorize. 44% of new home buyers, this was in 2014 by the way, will pay 1 to 4% more for a green home. And we kind of put some of those certifications we talked about, and we will talk more about later today, in that range. 1 to 4. 25% though will pay 5 to 10, and 10% will pay 10% or more. That is a big deal to know that there's striation. If I know that half the market will pay 1 to 4, and that's pretty consistent. You hear some numbers later, 3%, whatnot, seems to be a nice common number we're getting closer to believing in. But that's not everybody. You might have the crazy people, the converts, right? I pay 10% more if the house is truly green, and I felt good about how green it was, how high performing it was. Absolutely, because I know what it's worth. Whether it's because I'm the engineer and I actually know truly what it's worth, or I just feel good about that. So don't discount that. Now, as agents, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to market to the mass part of the market, aren't we? We're not supposed to always go after the 10%ers, just 10% of the market. If we market it to the 10%, probably not going to have those listings very often. But keep this in mind when you've got your buyers and or your sellers speaking these kind of terms. It's not wrong, but you need to know how it's separated. All right, so my rapid round of studies that you hear, it's not just one crazy study funded by some, right or left wing, anything else. There's a ton of these that have come out. This is a big deal because it's what we all want, right? We want to know how much will people pay. That's what moves the market. So 2012 was the big one. It was like the first major one that came out. And it was a California housing market. And I know, right, from the Midwest, it was immediately discounted. But it actually was a pretty good study of the California market. And they tried to then take out what they call the Prius effect. So if they had any houses in their sample size that had an electric car, for example, they excluded them. Any houses that I think they were taking that had out, was it rain gardens? There's another one. A couple of those where a predisposition for sustainability being more of a passion, they took them out. They didn't want that. They wanted to make sure they tried to do just, eliminate the edges of the study and kind of 9% premium for green label homes. North Carolina did one for Energy Star homes. They found a $5,500 premium for the average house in their sample size and 90 days faster sales price. And this was at the time when people were selling. So trust me, 90 days, right, as agents, we would have just killed for that. That's a big, big deal. Institute for Market Transformation, I love them. They put out some great stuff. This one was interesting because they went into a very hot, very specific market of DC. DC has a lot of passion for these things, right, depending on which part of DC you're in. And also, you have some really wealthy neighborhoods with some very kind of informed individuals. And so they were seeing median sales prices up to 23% higher in some neighborhoods. Now, that was an extreme one, but it could show you how big it could get. Most recently, one of our better ones was Texas, came out with a really big study across the state and showed a 6% resale value and increased premium for green homes. I like that one a lot. This is the one the banker all of a sudden gets excited for. And it was big because this starts to move the other parts of the market for us. This is where the underwriters start to get excited. The study showed that green and high-performance homes had a lower default rate. So the default risk on average 32% lower. Now, being in the banking world for a long time, I'll tell you, banks, when they're looking at their portfolios, they will jump through windows for 3% lower default rate, showing that a section of the market that they can actually semi-easily determine, right, has a certification, doesn't, in some places, other places it was harder, had a 32% lower default rate, and maybe they should overweight their portfolio in that. Oh my gosh. Within 1 year of this coming out is when Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac actually came out with their initial pilot of their green multifamily loans. These things move the market. Satisfaction gap. These come out every year. These are pretty cool. They take a survey of existing homeowners, and they show basically what you feel like you have in your house versus the things you want in your house. A satisfaction gap. It's your current house, right? We all know the things that we love to have, right, but we don't have. And for years, it's been a better bathroom or better kitchen. A few years back, I think when this came out, I feel like it was 2013 maybe or so, energy efficiency jumped to the top, and it stayed at the top now for every year since then. So that's the gap between what you're currently living in. You know, man, I really wish I had more energy efficiency in this house, and then what you want. All right, I think this is my last one, but it's probably the biggest one on our wording. So National Association of Home Builders does this study every year, what home buyers really want. This is actually ethnic preferences one, so it goes general and then it goes deeper into different categories. But it is home buyers recently purchased, 65% of them said they desire an environmentally friendly home. But only 15% in the survey said they were willing to pay more. Unfortunately, when I heard this, that didn't fall into category. The other ones we were talking about were really excited. This one, I was bummed when I first read the first part. That's not what I want to hear until you get to the second part. So then they change the question around, move it around and say, now, choose between having a highly energy efficient home with lower utility bills over the life of the home versus a home without those features that cost 2 to 3% less. Which would you choose? More than 80% buyers prefer the more expensive home. This is probably one of my best examples of the way you phrase things matters. Nobody's asking me for these things. Aren't they? What are certain things they're asking for? Comfortable home, right? Maybe consistency in cost, because they don't want to get high maintenance costs on the house, right? How old's the roof? How old is it? They're thinking of things like that. All these kind of play in. Lower bills. They always ask for the bill, but what they really like to know is they prove that that's going to be the case. Big deal. So things that are coming, right? Studies, tons of them, right? And they're not going to stop because that is what we need. We need this data so we can help sell these items. Regional local efforts to green the MLS. Hey, we're going to talk about one of those today. Legislation proposed to require the use of green certified appraiser. We'll talk a little bit about that. You do have the option of getting a green certified appraiser for your process. That will be a shock to some. But the legislation proposing to require it is interesting. We'll talk about why that would matter and what that would do. Regional and local efforts to include the present value of the future energy savings at the appraised value. That's a big deal, and it's out there. You guys, if you have time, you look up the SAVE Act, S-A-V-E. It's an act that was put forth years ago by our local representatives, Rob Portman, Senator Portman. He actually was the co-sponsor. It's an incredibly bipartisan bill. It's one of the most popular bills that have been presented in decades. Everybody loves it. It's like a 98% rating, of bipartisanship, one of the highest you can get, and it doesn't get passed because they keep putting on very unpopular bills because they hope it nudges it over. Yeah. So the poor bill, even being so popular, doesn't get out. But of course we want this, right? We want to make sure that savings, right? I can't tell you how many houses in Hyde Park, a local area here. It's an older neighborhood where there's a lot of updates, but then there's still a lot of houses that haven't. And the houses could look very similar because maybe it was updated with paint and other things, so it looks pretty. But the energy bill on this 3,000 square foot home is $650 a month. The energy bill on this one is $100 a month. And how are we not taking a $500 plus difference in energy bill and putting that into what the person should or couldn't afford? It has to be there, right? We put in things much smaller than that with interest and insurance and other items that are mandated. So this is a big deal. And then the last one, and you're starting to see this, legislation proposed to require an energy audit at resale. That is what scares the bejesus out of the real estate industry. And it is happening in the city. So Berkeley, California, okay, kind of makes sense. Austin put this in place a number of years ago. They actually just re-upped it recently. So they had a number of years of experience for this. Portland just put it into effect, I think this last year. And I think what I've heard is I think there's over 15 cities at least that have it in their current process to try to get through, whether it's remote or otherwise, to get through their local legislation. This totally changes the market. We'll talk a little bit about green premium and brown discount a little bit and what that would do. All right. So I think this is a good spot. I know we're a couple minutes before 1, but this is where I want to stop on this one. So why don't we take a break? If there are any questions now, feel free. We get them in. But we'll take looks like about a 7-minute break and start right back up at 1 if we can.